Welcome back to Comic Book History. This is episode number 29. Now, I didn't decide exactly in the previous episode what I was going to do with this one, and I kind of figured, I found something to talk about for episode 29. What am I talking about? A character who is on TV right now on air. He's coming back in this current season of the show. Who am I talking about? The Vigilante. No, I'm not talking about the cowboy version. The one that appeared in the Golden Age, also appeared on the TV show Just Like Unlimited. I'm not talking about that one. I haven't hardly read anything. The only thing I read of the character is the 2 issues he appeared for Just Like America, basically leading into the satellite era of the Justice League. That's the only thing I read for the character. I have nothing against Greg Sanders, but I'm going to talk about the one basically that uses regular guns instead of revolvers, and actually does kill people. So I'm going to do anyways. Now, officially, there have been people who worn the actual mask of Vigilante. There has been roughly, officially, I'd say about 3, at least a handful of people who have taken up the name Vigilante. Excuse me. Yeah, there have been a handful of people. You have. Okay, Dad. Anyways. Yeah, officially there have been at least about 4 people who officially have taken up the name Vigilante. You have Adrian Chase, who's the most known version of the character. You have his younger brother, who was the last version of Vigilante introduced prior to Flashpoint, though there was a Vigilante in this Vigilante Southland series. Nothing to do with Vigilante at all, that's why I think I'm cool in costume. There is also the Adrian Chase version, who was the she was the second one introduced, and she was created also by Marv Wolfman, like the first one was. Justin Powell, who was the third one, who was not created by him, he was created by somebody else. But there was a couple imposter vigilantes, is what I call them. There is Alan Wells and Dave Winston. Yeah, these 2 are basically just they're just copy vigilantes. I don't consider these people to be official people who take up the name Vigilante, because I only consider them to be 4 people: Adrian Chase, Pat Trace, Justin Powell, and Adrian Chase's younger brother, Dorian Chase. Excuse me. Adrian Chase's first appearance was actually not in the issue where he became Vigilante. His first appearance was in New Teen Titans number 23, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. After this one issue, it basically introduces DA of New York City. That's simply his job. Then he returned for issue 26 until issue 34, which led into the annual, where there was a bomb placed in the guy's house and basically apparently killed him and his whole family. Planted there by a mobster he put in jail. To me, this kind of sounds like a bit of basically typical thing you hear whenever you have prosecutors or judges put criminals behind bars. Some of those people do come back for revenge, but some could see it from a comic fan perspective, it could be like a ripoff of the origin of the Punisher. That's essentially what the character was. He was essentially DC's version of the Punisher. That's essentially what the character is. And a lot of people who basically took up the Vigilante generally wore a similar looking costume with slight alterations here and there. Basically, with New Teen Titans number 2, basically Adrian Chase became New Vigilante, where he actually killed the mobster who actually murdered his family and the entire mobster's organization. And then he basically adopted a non-killing policy, which he adopted for a little while. After this annual, he got his own ongoing series, which of the 3 volumes of Vigilante, not counting the miniseries because that's just Vigilante Southland, of the 3 official volumes just called Vigilante, the first volume was by far the longest, lasting 50 issues and 2 annuals. The first 14 issues were done by basically one of his co-creators, Marv Wolfman, who did the first 14 issues, then handed off to the awesome Alan Moore for a couple issues, basically doing issue 15 and 16, and then from 17 up until issue 50, it was done by Paul Kupperberg. Basically, also used the character when he basically did Checkmate. During his first 3 issues of his run, they were co-written by Marv Wolfman, basically came back on just to do the character. Basically, even after the whole thing of killing his whole family being killed, he still operated as a DA and later on became a judge. At times, he would simply just give up being Vigilante a couple times, while a couple imposters would run around basically being a Vigilante, one of whom was actually a friend of his. Yeah, that's simply put way it was when it came to the Vigilante. Mm-hmm. Yep. His costume was pretty simple. His costume simply is just like a black jumpsuit with V's on top and V's in the suit, and he usually carried like a semi-futuristic gun in his comic books, but later on he actually used later bullets. Originally, during the first like few years of the run, he did have a regular love interest, basically a girlfriend from the office, who, in one issue, they actually had sex. And originally, when the comic started, it did have the Comic Code Authority on the cover. And then, roughly, like, not long after Kepler took over the book, the seal disappeared, and it never returned to the comic book ever again. It never actually officially came back at all. Not even the second and third volume had the Comic Code Authority on the cover, because the comic came out more darker. And it had the similar cover style that Legion Superheroes and Teen Titans had, basically sort of like this very nice-looking covers. I don't know who did these covers, but whoever did it did a fantastic job doing the covers. Then a bit later on, basically, after the Vigilante became dark, when around basically like 35, 36, when he killed the cop, his girlfriend he had in the series at that point, she disappeared. She apparently stopped seeing him. Then, a few issues after that, they introduced a new love interest for him. Basically, this bizarre, punkish woman who basically forces herself into his apartment, and Adrian Chase is in his whitey tighties for some reason. Probably came back after doing some killing, and the woman decided to strip butt naked and then decided to have sex with him right in his living room. I am not kidding. And from basically her debut in issue 40 up until the final issue, almost every issue, pretty much every single issue, these two had sex. Heck, one issue they actually beat the crap out of each other for no reason. That's simply what happened with this series. It was a bit bizarre. And then the final issue, and this was a really good issue, the cover tells it all. Basically, you have Vigilante pointing a gun in a mirror, and what does Vigilante do in the final issue? He commits suicide. And his friends he had throughout the series just come back. Heck, even his girlfriend he had at the end of the series comes to his funeral. It was a nice way to end the series. Kepler did a great job with it. Fun fact, Henry Stein, the guy who was the first White King of Checkmate, made his debut in Vigilante in issue 23, nonetheless. Basically, roughly about 6 issues after the character's debut. After Paul Kepler came on the book, he introduced his character, and basically you can kind of say this is actually one of the books that basically planted seeds for the Checkmate series he did later on. After the Vigilante series ended, the Vigilante character disappeared for a little while until it popped up in Marv Wolfman's Deathstroke series with introduced a female Vigilante, Pat Trace, where she was introduced as herself, and then later she became the Vigilante, wearing a similar costume that Adrian Chase wore, just more of a feminine look to her. And Marv Wolfman did the most predictable thing he did with the character. Basically, there was this one scene in an issue of Deathstroke where they're both in their underwear and then they have sex. I am not kidding about that. This literally happens. Yeah, Deathstroke is in his underwear, and basically she's treating his wounds after a battle, and then later on they have sex. This is not a joke. This really does happen. And basically, he trains her to be new Vigilante. I don't really get why Wolfman thought this was a good idea to do, but the character was really interesting. And she even popped up several times throughout the Deathstroke comic book. Heck, she even continued to appear even after the comic book ended. I think her last appearance was actually during Infinite Crisis. Yeah. This character was never killed off, just that this character just stopped appearing. And then, I think it was in... what was it? It was then in 2005, roughly about 1 year before, almost forgot. Vigilante did have a couple villains. It was Cannon Saber and one of the Executioners. Basically, he fought the third one, who was basically originally a Batman villain, which kept Burke decided to make a Vigilante villain for some reason. I don't know why. Just it was interesting. But hey, at least he fought some people. And he fought the Peacemaker, too. who was a reveal in the Burke did write a miniseries for and had appear also in the Checkmate series. It's because of Peacemaker that Vigilante became crazy. Yeah, that's the reason why. Justin Powell basically introduced at the start of a 6-issue miniseries, basically called Vigilante, appears in this one miniseries, and then pretty much like right after this series over with, this Vigilante is never seen again. It's like DC just forgot this character exists and just had him basically disappear. And then when Marv Wolfman took over the Nightwing series with issue 125, he introduced one more Vigilante before the Flashpoint reboot. Who was this Vigilante? Adrian Chase, the younger brother of the original person who took up the identity of Vigilante, Adrian Chase. And he was around for a good period of time. He first showed up in Nightwing, and later on he got his own ongoing series, which lasted for 12 issues, and this was the second volume basically Wolfman wrote. Though this time, he did the whole thing instead of leaving after a short period of time like he did with the first volume. They even had a crossover with, basically around like issues 5, and basically about halfway through the volume, they had like a 3-way crossover. They had like a brief 3-month crossover between Vigilante Volume 3, Teen Titans Volume 3, and Titans Volume 2, called I think it was called the Death Trap, I think it was. Let me look it up. Yeah, it was a crossover considering, oh yeah, it's called Death Trap, basically, where Adrian Chase was going after Jericho. Later on, basically, during the course of the crossover, Jericho's half-sister, Rose Wilson, aka Ravager, convinced him to just remove his eyes. That's it. And then he just continued to pop up now and again. Then Flash reboot happened. And then up until recently, there was no Vigilante in DC Comics. And then they brought back the Vigilante with Vigilante Southland series. They introduced a new character named Don Fairchild. What initially put was going to be I think it was a 6-issue limited series. Let me look it up here. Yeah, I have no idea what happened at DC that caused them to stop producing the series. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. They released 3 issues, and then for some strange reason, like, this was originally going to be a 6-issue limited series, and then for some strange reason, the series stopped after publishing 3 issues. Maybe because the series wasn't selling too well, I don't know. The last issue came out 10 months ago. I am not kidding about this. Issue 3 came out December of last year. I like the character's costume. The series wasn't interesting at all. Maybe that's probably what caused DC to stop publishing it. But they are releasing this miniseries in trade. They are putting the 3 issues released and the 3 unpublished issues. Because they want to. I like the character's look. I don't think that Donald Fairchild basically had a problem with his look. I just kind of felt as though if you're going to reintroduce Vigilante into DC Rebirth, basically with the whole thing of bringing stuff back, you should have brought back Adrian Chase, not introduce a new Vigilante. This honestly made no sense at all to do. Maybe later on they might bring back Vigilante, I don't know. But the only reason why they did this was because Vigilante appears on Arrow, which he was a recurring villain in recurring character in season 5. I have heard he's coming back in this current season after he had his brief fight with Prometheus. Now, they kind of imply they're going to say true to the character. Now, one thing I can praise about the guy's look is that you can say that, yes, this is Vigilante. And I have got to hand it to the costume designers for Vigilante. They did a fantastic job basically giving this character, basically, even though they kind of based the design on what they did for Deathstroke, but hey, you can say that, yeah, this is Vigilante, and it's clearly inspired by the classic costume, though they basically based the design of it on the Deathstroke costume, but yeah, it's the right build, he looks great, the actor does a great job. Who plays Vigilante? Vigilante is played by an actor named Mick Wingard, I think it's pronounced his name. Yeah, he does an absolute fantastic job playing the character. As somebody who actually read the ongoing series prior to, I read it online prior to him showing up on the show. So basically, he stayed true to the character. And the fact he went after basically criminals, and he killed people. Despite the fact we never got a chance to figure out on the show who he is, I have heard in the current season they are going to do that. So yeah. But aside from that, the only thing for trades-wise they've done for Vigilante, I know that the first time is finally seeing the light of a trade. I'm like, it's about frickin' time. Yeah, and I think the trade is coming out. Let me check this. I have to go on Amazon to check this. Because I did see on Amazon, it was, I think it was collecting like the initial, just the initial first volume of the series. Yeah, basically, shoot. What did I do that for? Anyways, yeah, I'm trying to sign into Amazon, but it's doing this little character thing. There we go. Let's see. I just want to be sure about this. Let's see here. Yeah, Vigilante by Marv Wolfman. It just came out just early this year. Yeah, and it collects of Marv Wolfman's run for the book, which is only 14 issues. And the trade collects the first 11 issues and New Teen Titans number 2. This is a bit bizarre. I don't really get why they did this for, where they just clicked the first 11 issues, even though his run was only 14 issues long, but who knows. 3 has been collected once as part of the Def Jam crossover, but only a couple issues. Just the issue that crossover was collected. The rest of the volume has never been collected in trade. I think there was at least, as far as I can tell, I don't think there was any other issue for the Vigilante series that was collected in trade. Not that I know of, anyways. Adrian Chase did appear in the Day of Judgment series. His character appears in the Afterlife. Yeah, but trades-wise, DC needs to do a little bit more when it comes to collecting this character in trade, and do a better job putting more issues in trade. Hopefully, with next volume of the series, they actually put more issues in. But yeah, overall, if you look at all 3 volumes, there was roughly, let's see, 6 plus 12. That is roughly about 68 issues. Yeah, 68 issues and 2 annuals spread across 3 volumes of the series over the course of a little over 20 years. So that's not too bad per se, but I just kind of wish if they were going to bring in Vigilante, bring back the original. Yeah. But yeah, Vigilante is one of the most interesting characters DC has ever done. Gotta hand the Marvel from George Perez, making the character so interesting. But not only these two, but also Alan Moore for his 2 issues he did, and Paul Kepperberg made Adrian Chase so interesting. The Justin Paul version, he was okay. He wasn't terrible. I read his volume, was actually a pretty interesting volume. It's just that I think that DC just completely forgot about this character when Dorian Chase was introduced. And Dorian Chase was definitely an interesting vigilante. And his was a slight update from his brother's costume. But out of other people who've been vigilante, he's able to actually relate to one of them. I don't remember what his face looks like, though. Yeah. As far as I know, in the 12 issues he had, he never took off his mask at all. And I have no idea what his face even looks like. Yeah, at least Adrian Chase, I know what his face looks like. He's a blonde-haired white guy. In the case of Dorian Chase, I have no idea what this character's face even looks like. Yeah. But, that's really it. Interesting character. I do recommend tracking down the trades. The first trade from Marv Wolfman. I don't think they're going to do another volume. I haven't seen that they're going to do another one. No, not that I know of, no. But I kind of wish they would do another volume. And something, though, the last issue only came out just... Last trade just came out this past April. I'm thinking, it's been 6 months since the last trade comes out, and you don't release another trade. That makes no sense at all. I mean, I get maybe there's probably a demand for putting Vigilante in trade, especially since he appears in Arrow. But look at the Arrow characters been Arrow, and they've had trades for them. Green Arrow, yeah, basically the start of their show. He's had a series of trades. Deathstroke got a revival of a series and a new series of trades. Suicide Squad, thanks to the movie and the TV show, the first volume of the series is finally seeing a lot of it seeing trade for the first time. Flash is getting more trades. Also, thanks to basically you got to thank the films and the TV show basically giving certain serious trades for the first time, and also the Supergirl series is giving Supergirl volumes 2 and 5 collected in trade for the first time, and of course volume 5 getting new printing. That's Vigilante. Only 2 books. That's it. I'm like, seriously? One of the most interesting characters that Marvel Open ever created, and Adrian Chase gets 1 trade. So dumb. I hope DC does more. If you want to read more issues of basically Adrian Chase aside from the 1 trade, track down the individual issues for the first volume and the second and the first and third volume, because those are interesting. If you want to check out the second volume, which came out in 2005, good luck trying to find those issues. Those issues are probably a little more harder to find than, let's say, volume 3, because volume 3 are a little more popular to get. But yeah, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for whenever I get a chance to episode 30. I don't know what I'm going to do it on yet. I decided to do a Vigilante because, well, I love this character, and I kind of figured, though, why not just talk about him? Yep. I'll decide, basically, by the time I do episode 30, what I'm going to do it on. So you'll find out when the episode comes out what I'll do it on. Okay? But until then, I will see you there. Bye.